Peace and blessings, family. We want to thank everyone that is tuning in right now to the next generation. What we are going to do is be getting more insight in a little bit of knowledge on what it means to be within the industry of trade and commerce under the trucking industry, but not just the trucking industry. We are talking dispatching and what it means to be able to be in that world and control the flow of logistics. And with us, we have our brother who is the owner and CEO of Torchlight Logistics. He is an income enhancement strategist and a goal facilitator, and here to help us understand the dispatching industry and give us insight on what it takes to become successful in it. We have here our brother Demetrius X. How you doing, dear brother?
All praises to Allah, brother. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak, brother.
Wow, like salam and Ramadan Kareem, dear brother. Do you mind giving the people a short description of yourself in this current day and time?
Yes, sir, brother. Anthony, thank you, brother. As my brother mentioned, my name is Brother Demetrius X, and I'm a student of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad here in Augusta, Georgia. I have a dispatching company called Torchlight Logistics, where we help service drivers and carriers to maximize the profit of their companies, as well as he mentioned, facilitating their goals depending on whatever targets they're trying to reach and what areas they're trying to stay in. And dispatching is a way that you can really make money in the trucking industry, which we normally think about driving trucks, right? We normally think about dealing with equipment, CDLs, and so on and so forth. But dispatching is a way where you can actually make money in the trucking industry with never even operating or stepping foot in a truck. So this is what we intend to share tonight, the steps that it takes to do that, and any questions or concerns that yourself or the audience may have pertaining to that subject. So I'm looking forward to it, beloved brother Anthony.
Yes, sir. Same here, dear brother. Praise be to Allah. For anybody that is watching right now, I would like for if you were to hear anything that sparks your interest, that you know that you sort of have the skills to be a part of and make manifest in the state of Florida and all around, I want you all just to relegate yourself to that email and page right here so that you can reach out to us, because we're really willing to make this happen and reach our arms out to whoever else is reaching their arms toward us. And so to start off this interview with our brother, I would like to first ask you, how did you get started in this industry?
Oh man, thank you, brother, for that question.
Yes,
long story. Do we have about 3 hours, brother? No. Yes, sir. Well, beloved brother, how I got started in dispatching, I was originally working a job, and then I ended up transitioning from that job. I was working at a beef facility as an administrative assistant. Then I moved up into being what they call an MRO buyer. I was a purchaser for the maintenance department, where I would order products that they needed for that particular department for that beef company called FPL Food. However, just being dissatisfied, knowing that I always desired to do for myself, an entrepreneur by nature, brother Anthony, and always striving to seek a way to get involved in some form of avenue that I could begin, taking care of myself and serving my needs from a financial perspective by doing for self fully. I was always looking for that opportunity. I had opened businesses before in the past, but they weren't able to fully service my expenses. So they would always be what they call side businesses, right?
Okay.
So in November of 2020, I ended up making a transition from that particular job, working as a buyer for that company, into opening up my own cleaning service.
Yes, sir.
Opening up my own cleaning service with a couple of brothers here in Augusta, Georgia. We started out very strong. We still have the business open on books, but we started out very strong, getting contracts and so on and so forth. But eventually some of the contracts started drying up.
Okay.
And it just wasn't as profitable as it initially was during COVID, when we opened it up during that particular time, because there was a need for businesses to be cleaned. That's right. And to be sanitized. So we took advantage of the opportunity. But as I mentioned, it started drying up. Contracts started drying up. And here in Augusta, Georgia, it was as though many of the business owners didn't really care about their businesses being protected by COVID.
Yes, sir.
Sanitation items. So
wow.
I got into a position where I was forced to seek more employment. So I ended up getting another job at a company, a third shift position, doing inventory control. And I also got another position on first shift doing administrative work as well for a company called Southeast Utilities of Georgia, right? So I had two jobs, Brother Anthony. One that was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And the first shift job was from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Okay.
So literally barely had any time for self. And it was during a time where, fortunately for myself, the mosque activities were suspended during COVID. So I can only imagine if the mosque was open during those times, but by the grace of Allah, I was very drained, Brother Anthony.
Yes.
Working both of those jobs, even though I was able to save some money. So that was a benefit, but two jobs is a drain, especially when you have ideas and a purpose of your own that you need time to focus on, right?
That's right.
So I noticed that I was always tired. I didn't have the mental creativity. I didn't have the time to focus on my passion and my goals, which was, of course, resurrecting my people and entrepreneurship. So it really fueled me to think even more creative of what I could do. I have a clothing line. Of course, we opened the cleaning service, but I was looking for a way that I could fully immerse myself in to make a transition from the corporate plantation into fully what we call doing for self, right? So
yes, sir.
I happened to come across a good brother of mine that I've known for around 13 years, who's been in the trucking industry for over 15 years. His name is Jermaine Harp. He's the owner of Boss Moves Transportation. Good friend of mine. He's on my Facebook page. So of course I saw his post when he would post it, and he posted some information about dispatching, or what they call a freight finding service, on how you can make money, right from your home office through the trucking industry. So it piqued my curiosity. I didn't know, because a lot of times when you see things, you're kind of skeptical, right? Like, what do you got going on?
That's right. As you should be.
but due to the fact that I saw an opportunity, I was like, let me see what he has going on. So I called my brother. I had his number personally. So I reached out to him, inquired about it. Once he began explaining it to me, Brother Anthony, how it only really involves building relationships with drivers and also networking with brokers and shippers. And the only thing you need is a cell phone and a laptop, and the type of profits that could be generated, 1,000 plus weekly. I said, whoa, hold up, let me look into this.
That's right.
Because I already saw myself fitting nicely with those skills of having good communication skills, enjoying networking with people. I had all the equipment I needed, cell phone and laptop. So I said, let me at least give it a shot. Let me learn what dispatching is about. Let me see how I can make money in the trucking industry without a truck. So I reached out to him. I purchased a one-on-one training course through him. And it was one-on-one. He would teach me weekly the different aspects and components of what it is to be a successful freight dispatcher. And once I finished that course, directly after a month of learning from my brother, I had a client already lined up, because a former coworker of mine's actually reached out to me and just inquired about what I had going on. I told her that I was learning about dispatching in the trucking industry, and she let me know that she had a friend that drove trucks.
Wow.
So she gave him my contact information. He called me. He didn't even need the service, but he had a sister who needed the service. So he put her in contact with me. She reached out to me and asked me, could I help service her company? And of course, being one who's looking for that opportunity, I said, yes, ma'am, I'm new to this industry, but I would love the opportunity to help maximize your income and facilitate your goals. And she obliged. And that first week, I was able to book enough loads for her to make her the most money she's ever made in her life.
Wow.
First load, we made $1,400. I think it was going from North Carolina to Florida. She had a box truck.
Okay.
And I was able to dispatch her so successfully that she put me in contact with her cousin.
Man.
Right? Now I have two clients, and all the while I'm working two jobs, Brother Anthony.
Yes, sir.
One on third shift, one on first shift. I was doing this while I was at my job on first shift.
Yes, sir.
So it was challenging, because of course you have to focus on your work assignments, right? at the job. Fortunately, I had access to be able to check email because I had my own computer. They had a printer and a scanner where I could go on the load boards, book the loads, print the documents out, sign them, scan them back in, so on and so forth. But once it got to the point, once I got my third client, my third truck, I realized I was making around the same, sometimes more, sometimes a little less than I was with both jobs combined.
Okay.
That's when I knew it was time to make a transition fully into the trucking industry via dispatching. And I knew if I put my full-time attention and energy into it, Brother Anthony, then I knew I would be able to maximize the profit even more and take the business further.
Yes, sir.
So that's when I opted to make that transition, brother. That's how I got into dispatching.
Yes, sir, man. That's beautiful, brother. Because as our teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, has told us, man, you don't just quit your job and hop into what your interest is, man. You do the steal away method, which is acquiring the amount from the new passion that you have that has turned into a job. You make sure that you are replacing the income from your last job, so that is progressive movement and you're not moving backwards. You're actually just using what you already have to help move further within your own independence. So I think that was a beautiful example of doing that, dear brother. And I heard you mention, right, like having all you really need is a laptop, a phone, and some other things. Can you get real specific and just name off the things that people's mind probably go really broad when they think of what they need to become a dispatcher? Can you please just lay that foundation on what you personally need as a dispatcher to get started?
Basics, Brother Anthony. Literally, you only need a cell phone and a laptop, right?
Man.
Really, that's really all you really need to actually bare minimum make it work as a dispatcher. However, if you want to be more professional and more structured, of course, I always tell people and I recommend forming your LLC.
Yes,
through your Secretary of State, right? In Georgia, it costs $100 to do so. Very nominal fee.
That's right.
Whatever state that you may be in. I know in Texas it's $300, in Delaware is $90. You just simply would need to research via Google how much it costs to form an LLC in your respective state, right?
Yes.
Get your EIN number so you can open up your business bank account, right? And be official, right? Because you want to start building business credit. You want to start moving in the corporate world, opening up your own business bank account and so on and so forth. You want to be more professional, right? But other than that, and cell phone, laptop, you really only need the knowledge of how to dispatch, because of course you're going to have to go through a learning process of what you would need to know in order to successfully take on clients and then maximize their profit, right? So other than that, that's all you need. But it would help outside of a laptop and cell phone if you had a printer that had a scanner as well as an extra screen, because sometimes when you're on the load board and you're on your email and you're looking at other web pages, you have to go back and forth on your laptop, back and forth. And me, I like to have two screens. So I always recommend my students to invest in another screen if you don't already have one. If you have the capital to get a printer, it can help you, but it's not necessary to have one. You can actually scan the documents through your cell phone. They have cell phone apps you can scan and send and email it right to yourself. So you don't need those things, but they can definitely help supplement you as a dispatcher for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful answer there, brother. We learned so much already just off this basis. I appreciate these in-depth answers. And what I want to move on to is a question that, as I'm going through your Instagram and Facebook pages, I'm hearing about different equipment types. And I know that this is something that I don't necessarily know about. So could you please just explain what that is and how that applies to being successful, a successful dispatcher?
Oh, wow, Brother Anthony. That's a great question for anybody who desires to get involved in the trucking industry via dispatching, because knowing your equipment types is essential, right? How are we going to be able to maximize the profit for our client if we don't even know what type of truck they drive? So, but by equipment type, we mean when you're talking about an 18-wheeler or a truck, right? You have semi trucks and you also have box trucks and what are called hot shots. But let's just start with what we call semi trucks or 18-wheelers. What makes the equipment type we're mentioning is not the actual truck, the front part of the truck. I wish we had a picture, But for all those who are listening, when you watch it, when you look at a truck, when you see the front part of it, that's only what you call the power unit. That's the actual truck aspect of it. That part can be disconnected from the trailer, right? The trailer that gets attached to the truck. You have different trailer types, and those different trailer types that go on 18-wheelers are dry vans, reefers, flatbeds, and you also have others like step decks and so on and so forth. But just to give us a brief example of what they mean, dry vans are normally those long boxes that you see on the back of the trailer that you see commonly on the highway, right? Those long vans that are enclosed, those are called dry vans, and they typically haul dry goods that don't need to be stored at a specific temperature, that pallets can go into. They can also haul furniture and things of that nature. Nothing dealing with food products too much that need to be regulated at a certain temperature. However, a reefer trailer doesn't have anything to do with marijuana, for those who may hear the term reefer. It only stands for a refrigerated trailer, but it's called a reefer in the trucking industry. And they haul refrigerated goods that need to be regulated through an AC unit that's attached to the trailer to keep the frozen foods frozen, to keep the produce from spoiling, to keep the pharmaceuticals from not going bad. So you would need a reefer trailer in order to haul that type of cargo. And also a flatbed, which is one of my favorite trailer types because they just make so much money and they're so easy to dispatch.
Yes, sir.
Are those long beds that you see sometimes cars go on, that you see industrial materials like steel and lumber and so on and so forth go on, that doesn't have an enclosed trailer. It's called a flatbed because it's literally a flat bed that's attached to the back of the truck. And knowing those different equipment types, understanding how to dispatch them is vital for a dispatcher, because each of those equipment types come with different accessories that you will need to know to communicate with the broker to be effective in securing freight for those drivers. Such as if you call a broker asking about a flatbed load and you don't know what a tarp is, right? The broker is going to say that this load requires a tarp. It requires a tarp. It requires dunnage. It requires chains. And if you don't know what these different chains and tarps are, you're going to be looking like, what is that? So each equipment type has different accessories that go along with them that you would need to know about in order to secure that freight properly. So that's why knowing the equipment type is essential. But also, outside of just the accessories, as a dispatcher, we need to know the dimensions of the trailer that we're dispatching for. And what I mean by that is certain freight can only fit in a certain size trailer.
Yes.
So if you have a dry van that's 53 feet long and can hold 30 pallets, standard pallets, right? And it's 96 inches in width, 104 inches in height at the door. If you book a load and you don't know how long the trailer is or how high the trailer is at the door, if it's only 104 inches at the door and the freight is actually 110 inches tall, it's not going to fit.
That's right.
So we have to ask the driver to get familiar with the type of equipment they have, the accessories they have, as well as the dimensions of the trailer and how much weight it can scale. Because you don't want to book the worst thing you want to do is book a load for a driver where the freight doesn't fit in the trailer or it's overweight. Because if you load a driver that's overweight and they get pulled over by the DOT, which is the transportation police, and they actually weigh them overweight, they can get a $500 fine or potentially even more. So we don't want to put our driver in that situation. So you have to get thoroughly aware and familiar with the different equipment types, especially the ones that your driver has and they're operating.
Yes, sir. Beautiful answer there, brother. And I just want to move on to have you break down the process, right? From when you're booking or setting up a trailer or a truck to go into transportation. Can you give me every basic step that the dispatcher will have from the time of leaving whatever lot that you're in to get into its destination? What are some of the things that you will facilitate this driver with?
Okay, yes, sir. Absolutely. When you book a load through a broker or a shipper, the first thing you're going to have to do is more than likely you're either going to have to call that broker. And the way you get their information and details about the load is through what's called a load board, right? Load board is where a lot of the loads are online that you can have a subscription to. To get a subscription to a basic load board that's very popular, like DAT, it's only $39.95 a month. But it gives you access to different loads for those equipment types that we just mentioned.
That's
but
awesome.
also you can start building relationships to the point where brokers are reaching out to you, right? They have your contact information. They may email you, Anthony, and say, hey, I have a load going from Florida to Charlotte, North Carolina. Are you interested in this? As far as 53-foot drive-in, do you have a driver for me that can take this load, right? So either you'll be reaching out to them or they'll be reaching out to you. Once you call that broker, you're going to be responsible for getting the load details. You need to know the pickup times. When does it pick up, right, at the shipper? Does it pick up in between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m.? Or does it pick up right at 12 p.m.? Because you have to know if your driver can make the pickup time. The pickup location may be 2 hours from where you currently are, and it may need to be picked up by 12 p.m. and it's 11 p.m. So you won't be able to make the pickup in time, right? So you have to get the load details, which is the pickup and drop times, what type of commodity you're hauling, because it may be a commodity that you may not desire to haul that can mess your trailer up, like trash or residue or debris or anything like that. You also want to get the load details in reference to, are there any lumper fees? Lumper fees is a term that costs the driver money out of their pocket up front because the shipper doesn't have a staff to load the truck. So sometimes the driver will have to pay out of their pocket what are called lumper fees to pay a third-party company to load the truck, right? And then they'll get reimbursed for that lumper fee on the back end once the load has been completed. Some drivers don't like lumper fees, so you have to ask, does this load have lumper fees? Once you get all of the load details about that particular load and you are comfortable with the rate, because you're going to have to negotiate that rate as well. Sometimes they may have the load posted for $1,000, right? But you know that for this load that is posted at $1,000, you really want to get $1,800 for it. You want to get $1,500 for it. You're going to now have to use your communication skills, your negotiation skills to try to get the rate increased to whatever your target is. And whenever you agree on a rate that you're comfortable with, the broker is comfortable with, the next step, if your driver has never ran a load for that broker before, the broker is going to send you as the dispatcher what's called a carrier packet. A carrier packet is basically a way of registering with that broker.
Okay.
That driver, right? And you as a dispatcher, you're not using any of your personal company information. You're using your driver's information because you're representing that carrier to a broker. So you would just basically fill out documentation such as the trucking company name, their MC number, their DOT number, things such as what lanes do they like to run? Do they like to run from Florida to Charlotte? They're also going to ask you for the documentation of that company, such as their certificate of authority, certificate of insurance, and their W-9 to have all of their files on file so they can know that you're an official company that's approved by the DOT and the FMCSA, and you're insured to be able to be qualified to take this load. So once you get all of that information in through that carrier packet and it gets approved through that broker, the next step would be the broker would send you as a dispatcher what's called a rate confirmation. A rate confirmation is a contract between the broker and the driver that you're representing that has all of the load details that you communicated with them on the phone or via email about, such as how much that load is paying. Is it paying $1,500? If you agree to it at $1,500, it should say $1,500 on that rate confirmation.
That's right.
I'm also going to say where it's picking up from, where it's delivering to. If we talked on the phone and said it was picking up in Miami and going to Charlotte, I shouldn't see anything picking up in Jacksonville going to Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
Yes,
it should say exactly what we discussed, as well as are there any lumper fees? What's the pickup number? It's going to have all of those different details, also the dimension of the freight and the type of freight that's being loaded. Once you confirm those details through that rate confirmation, your job as a dispatcher will be to sign it. And that's what helps a dispatcher get in with the driver. We help the driver by focusing on handling the back office functions for them, the paperwork, the signing, the filling out the packets, the negotiations, while they just focus on the road and getting to the destination safely and securely. We're filling out all of that documentation, reviewing it, then emailing it back to the broker, right? After we email it back to the broker, we're going to send a copy of the rate con to our driver so they'll know where to pick up from and what times they need to be to the shipper to pick up the load, right? And the next set of steps is what we call, the 6 points of communication, which I learned through one of the leading industry leaders on dispatching, Alex Burton, right? He has a concept called the 6 points of communication, where you now will be in process of communicating with the driver and the broker and updating the broker on the status of the load. Okay. That's something that is so important to do that a lot of dispatchers drop the ball on, because the brokers need to be updated, right? When did you make it to the pickup? How far are you from the pickup? Did you get loaded successfully, right? What time will you be at the drop location, right? They need to know the status update. So now you will be responsible for having your driver communicate with you whenever they make it to the pickup, whenever they get loaded, whenever they make it to the drop, whenever they get unloaded. And then finally, when they get unloaded, they're going to get what's called a BOL signed by the shipper, the receiver, and themselves as proof of delivery, showing that they actually completed that load. And that is the money, brother. That proof of delivery that's signed by the shipper, receiver, and the driver. They're going to now send that to you via email or text, and you email that to the broker. Now your driver can get paid for that load, and you can get paid your percentage for booking that load for the driver. So that's pretty much the steps from A to Z, from calling the broker, negotiating the load, filling out the packet, rate confirmation, and giving the status updates. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that lovely answer, my brother. And for anybody watching and that just heard that, you can obviously take these things and you can start from home, as the brother is saying. You can go and visit our brother's page so that you can learn more and just reach out to him if you are finding interest in the topic of conversation going on right now. And to lead into the next question, right? As I was going through your Instagram page, I seen something about a load to truck ratio, and it sort of allows you to figure out sort of the hot spots or where you can maximize your potential in a certain area. Can you please break that down scientifically to us? What is the load to truck ratio?
Yes, sir, brother. Scientifically, I will attempt to do it scientifically, because I know you are the host of Brain Food TV, brother. I will strive my best to do it the best manner I can. But brother, the load to truck ratio is actually one of my favorite indicators to help me maximize the profit for my drivers. Okay. And trucking is no different than any other sector of the economy. And what I mean by that is, if you're looking at investing in a particular stock, there's certain indicators that you can use, right? If you're using fundamental analysis, you can look at a price to earnings ratio. If you're using technical analysis, you may be looking at candlesticks, or you may be looking at stochastics or something of that nature. If you're looking at real estate, you may be looking at a certain index, right? You may be looking at LTV. Whatever you're looking at, that's your indicator to show you this is a profitable investment. Every sector of the economy has ways of analyzing the market to find out how you can maximize your investment. And as a dispatcher and as a trucking company, the load to truck ratio is similar to those indicators to help us know where the hot markets are to position the trucks. And what the load to truck ratio is, in a nutshell, to simplify it, you all, is it shows us how many trucks there are in a particular state in relation to the amount of loads that are available in that state for that equipment type. So let's use the flatbed for an example. By looking at the load to truck ratio, it will show us that there are 1,000 flatbed loads in the state of Ohio, and there's 100 flatbed trucks available in Ohio currently. So what that does, it shows us that if you divide the 1,000 loads in Ohio by the 100 trucks, it shows us that there's a 100 to 1 load to truck ratio in Ohio. And that's a very high load to truck ratio. It shows us that if you position your flatbed driver in Ohio, it's going to increase the demand for your driver's truck, because there's so many loads available and there's very few flatbed trucks available. So now they're pretty much trying to throw the freight at you, right? And we know with the law of supply and demand, that makes our truck in higher demand.
That's right.
So you don't want to go to states and areas where the truck is not in high demand, because if you're in a state where the load to truck ratio is low, like 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, for every 2 loads there's 1 truck, that's when the negotiating power is in the hand of the brokers, and they'll push the rate down because you're not needed. They can find a driver easily. So we want to put the truck in areas where the load to truck ratio is high, so that we can always have negotiating power and maximize the profit for our drivers. That's the reason why I love that indicator so much, because it can really tell you where to go.
Yes, sir. That was beautiful. That's it's almost an ingenious process of how you would see where you can see the most benefit. It's this very, very common thinking, and that's something right there that I think that if as you have learned, if you strategize that the best way, you can really maximize where you go with this industry. And just to carry on this conversation, when we talk about owning trucks and trailers, right? Do you think that it is more beneficial as a dispatcher to do that, or do you think it just adds another aspect in which you can make a profit and sort of work with both worlds of trucking and dispatching? What would you suggest to people who might want to go into that lane?
Yes, sir. Great question, Brother Anthony. As my mentor shared with me, and he always shares with other students as well, the first thing you want to do is, before you make a move on how you want to enter the trucking industry, you want to first assess your position, assess your financial position, your investment capital, your access to capital, access to being able to get financed if you don't have the actual funds to invest in, right? You want to know where you are, because if you want to start with equipment and you also want to dispatch, if starting with equipment can be a nice investment if you can't get finance for that equipment, right? Talking about $20,000 to $50,000 on purchasing a truck or a used truck, more than likely, and also trying to invest in a trailer as well. So you're also going to need money to the side for maintenance. So you have to have a nice size maintenance account. My mentor tells me like minimum of $5,000, right? Because trucks break down all of the time, and you can best believe when you're running that truck hard, eventually it's gonna have problems.
Yes, sir.
And so tires run you hundreds of dollars. You have hoses that leak and things of that nature. So you want to have a good maintenance account that's funded properly. So if you have the ability to, have that type of startup capital, or the ability to get finance for that type of startup capital, then it may be feasible for you to enter the industry through having your own truck, your physical truck, as well as trailer as well. However, if that's not you, and that's not your financial situation, you need to work on your credit some more, you need to work on your ability to get finance, save some more capital, then you would definitely want to probably go more into the dispatching aspect, because the startup capital is minimal, but you can build your funds up just to get your own truck. So it all depends on your financial situation. But if you do go the route of dispatching and you see how much money you're making for your carriers, and for those who aren't familiar with the term carrier is another term for driver or trucking company. So for those who are dispatching and you see the money weekly that you're making for them gross, you see, man, I grossed this person $13,000 last week. I grossed them $12,000. I need to get my own truck, because that could be me grossing my own trucking company $12,000 and $13,000. And of course, the expenses would be your fuel cost, which is your heaviest expense, any maintenance that needed to be worked on. And if you happen to pay a dispatcher, you would pay a dispatch fee. But if you know the science of dispatching, you can dispatch yourself or dispatch your own trucks. And of course, you would need to pay a driver if you're not actually operating the equipment yourself as well. So it's definitely a great idea. And I would recommend anybody who has the startup capital to get involved in it. But you definitely want to assess your position before you make that decision.
Man, that's beautiful, dear brother. Letting us know that there's stages to this progression, but if you stay consistent as our brother did, you will definitely get there. And as you acquire the knowledge on how to move through this industry, you will see the bumps in the curb where that you need to get over. So, man, we appreciate our brother even sharing this with us. So as we get interested in this industry, we know what rocks to climb over and the mountains that we'll have to climb and get to the next side over as well. And one of these mountains, I want to describe it sort of as the drivers, right? What is the experience like with the drivers? Just sort of give a little bit about what you may run into and what is the most difficult part of that about this aspect of being a dispatcher.
Great question, brother. Great question. Now, I just want to share this first with the students of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and everybody listening. But for those who are students of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad who happen to be listening, know that what you are learning with the proper way of handling people all comes in handy in this industry, because this industry, you all, is all about how you handle people, your ability to build relationships, your ability to solve problems, think critically, and not become emotional. So what we have in the study guides from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan of rising above emotion into the thinking of God is key as a dispatcher. Because one thing about trucking, problems will occur. As a dispatcher, you are going to be faced with problems from your drivers. You're going to be facing problems from brokers. You're going to be facing problems from shippers. So you're going to always have to deal with points where there may be some conflict or frustration. But knowing how to deal with those situations is key, and knowing how to deal with the people is key. You have to realize that if the driver's truck breaks down, right, and they're stranded somewhere in Kansas, and they're from Miami, beautiful Miami, they're stranded in Kansas somewhere, they're stranded somewhere where it's snowing, right?
Yes.
Truck broke down. Driver naturally is going to be frustrated because they're away from their family. They're making the sacrifice by risking their lives to be away from their families. They're also losing money. They're paying more fees and maintenance. They're losing money because they could be on the road making it happen. So there's going to be some frustration. So knowing how to handle them, knowing how to speak a good word to your brother or your sister, knowing how to help them overcome challenges by giving them something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shares with us. Adversity is the mother of creativity. Going through struggles helps bring out the character in us. No, struggle is ordained. So when you have the ability to speak to a brother or a sister in a way like that, they will appreciate you because they know that you're sincerely concerned about them, because the truck is not the main asset, you all. The truck is great for them to have that truck you can dispatch for, but the person is the greatest asset. They are the one that you have to build that relationship with, that's going to always keep you dealing with them as a client, and they will want to do business with you, regardless of how much knowledge I have as a dispatcher. They have a relationship with you because they know the type of quality of character that you have, and that you have a genuine concern for their overall well-being. So knowing how to handle people, brother, is critical. I've had situations where I've had drivers very frustrated and upset, with different various situations, but just by being able to speak with them and keep my composure, I've been able to still keep that relationship strong, overcome those hurdles, solve the problem, move on to the next situation. Likewise, brokers, when you're calling some brokers, and for my brokers that may be out there listening, this is no shot to all brokers, but there are some brokers you will see that are very arrogant, very rude when you're on the phone with them, because brokers have a lot of power in the trucking industry because they have the access to the loads. So a lot of them have a smug personality, very arrogant, very rude. So when you call them inquiring about a load, they may use profanity, and they may use other types of language. So, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to allow that to frustrate you where you get unprofessional, right? Are you going to be able to stay cool in the negotiations, focus on the business, and lock the freight in at the rate that you desire to get it at? So you have to know how to handle people, handle your emotions, and not become overpowered by the Satan of yourself. Because if you do, guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose that client. You're going to lose that driver by arguing with them, getting upset and getting angry with them when they're upset and angry with you, or upset or angry with their situation. And you're going to also potentially lose a relationship with the broker by getting angry and upset with them as well. So it's all about handling people properly. And if you can, once again, give a brother or sister a good word to help keep them encouraged, that only even increases your value to them. There's been times where some of my drivers have been out on the road and they've been telling me what they're getting ready to eat and so on and so forth. And just being a student of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I may mention to them, well, brother, you may want to consider putting some fruit in there, brother. you may want to consider getting you some of this. Staying away from kale. It's not good for the digestive system. Don't eat too much fast food while you're out there, brother, because it has this and it has MSG, so on and so forth. And they'll be looking like, man, I never heard of that before, brother. I appreciate that, because they know that I'm not just trying to get money from them as a dispatcher. I'm really concerned about you and your life, because I'm your brother first and foremost. So just having that type of mentality, I've noticed that the drivers that I dispatch for have a relationship with me that they actually appreciate, that goes further than just trucking. So I would always encourage the dispatchers to build a relationship with the person first and foremost, and then the trucking will take care of itself.
Praise be to Allah. Yeah, that's it's so vital and so interesting to hear just the teachings throughout your explaining of these processes and what it takes to become a successful dispatcher. And as I heard you sort of talking about the specifics behind the different flatbeds and the different trucks that you have to know how to operate within it, and the people who you have to look within to know how to suffice their emotion, and make sure that they finish the job on a happy note. Because like you said, if we act like we don't understand the shoes that they're in, then they might walk away with those very same shoes. So, it's beautiful how you're incorporating what you can learn in these teachings and take it into business. And really for one of the last questions here, right? Are there safety nets that allow you not to take significant losses in this industry?
Now, when you say in this industry, are you referring to dispatching or just the trucking industry in general?
So anything under the responsibility of a dispatcher. So
okay,
if there's some insurance, anything like that.
Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You definitely want to, when you take on a client and they inquire about your service, right? The first thing that I do is I always get all of their goals, the type of truck they have, the dimensions of that trailer, and so on and so forth. And once they give me that information and I want to take them on as a client, before I begin dispatching for them or booking even one load, brother, I have them sign my carrier agreement, which is a contract. So that's going to protect you when they sign that. That contract is going to have how much you charge for your dispatching services on each load, right? You charge 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10%. That's the going rate for a dispatching fee on every load that gets booked. And it also will explain how you desire to get paid. Do you desire to get paid within 3 days of the load being booked, within 7 days? And what methods of payment do you accept? Do you accept Cash App? Do you accept it through Square? Do you accept it through PayPal or what's that one called, Zelle, or so on and so forth? Has all of your payment methods on there. It also has the responsibilities of the dispatcher and what you're liable for, and the responsibilities of the carrier and what they're liable for. So an example of the contract that I have, which I have a template for all of the students that take the course. In that template, it shows how the dispatcher is not liable for any damage to any freight that is on the truck of the driver when they're transporting those goods and services from one location to another location. So I'm not liable for anything that happens to the driver's freight that's on that truck. I have nothing to do with that. I booked the load, but at the same time, I'm not behind the wheel. So unless it's my company, unless it's actually my truck, and I have a driver that's operating that truck for my trucking company, then that's different. But as a dispatcher, dispatching for independent owner operators and fleet owners, we have no liability for that. So once they sign that gives us the legal ability to now represent them to brokers and shippers. And it also makes us not liable for anything that may happen to the freight while it's on the road. So you definitely want to have that contract in place before you even book one load with that driver. Other than that, there's really no other safety measures. I would say if a driver doesn't, I've never experienced this, but I have heard stories with dispatchers, right? If you're dealing with a driver, hypothetically speaking, and they don't pay you for your services, right? Now that can happen in anything in business. They don't pay you for your service. How do you go about getting your money, right? So before you dispatch one more load for them, you want to make sure you get your money first before you continue dispatching for them. But you can, of course, since you have that agreement in place, you can use that to take that to some litigation if you want to take that route. as well. So that contract really protects you, it protects them, and it keeps everything on the up and up, brother. So I always recommend to my students to get that contract signed before you do one thing with that driver.
Yes, sir. Beautiful answer there, brother. We want to get into how we can support our brother by supporting yourself, especially if you found any interest during this interview on joining the process and what it means to become a dispatcher. Just through going through your page, brother, you have a possible ebook coming on the way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And for people that don't know, you have a intense dispatch training course through your website, Torchlight Dispatch. And you also do a Zoom call that's a free masterclass. Can you explain a little bit the differences between the two and what people will get out of purchasing this intense dispatch training course rather than acquiring the knowledge from the free master class? Are there any differences within that?
Yes, sir, brother. I don't mind explaining those differences. Well, as you mentioned, the ebook that I did produce is currently going through some graphic updates, so it should be on the press very soon. Looking forward to dropping it, inshallah, either tomorrow or early next week. So be on the lookout for that. You can be on the lookout for that on my social media pages and also on my website. But outside of that, dealing with the intensive dispatch training course and the free masterclass, the free masterclass is something I strive to do on a monthly basis for those who inquire about what dispatching is.
Yes, sir.
I strive to give those in the audience who sign up for the free masterclass the basics of what dispatching entails, what steps are needed to be taken in order to become a successful freight dispatcher, as well as I also strive to provide some type of jewel or some type of new system or technique that I may have learned to students who have already taken the course previously.
Yes, sir.
So I just do a class to try to give value to the communities, to those who are looking to get involved in the trucking industry via dispatching every month. I normally do it every month. Sometimes I may do it twice a month, but normally once a month, I'll give that free masterclass. But the intensive dispatch training course is a course that was born in October of last year. Due to once my company started to take off, then I would, of course, post my company success on my Facebook page and Instagram page and so on and so forth. And a lot of people that knew me personally and on social media were reaching out to me via text, via DM, like, Brother Demetrius, what you got going on?
Yes,
what is dispatching? Like, you doing this without a truck? How you doing this without a truck? I had 1,000 questions coming to me, asking me to teach them. So literally, Brother Anthony, I would be on calls with brothers and sisters, teaching them, giving them the knowledge one-on-one, not charging a dime, just doing it out of love, brother, because I'm not trying to teach no course. I don't have the time for that. But it got to the point where I was teaching so many individually one-on-one that I didn't have the time to adequately nourish them all individually by teaching them in that way. So it was recommended to me that if you really want to give value, proper and adequate value to the students who are interested in learning, to form a course that's affordable, where those who are interested in it can sign up for it and they can all learn at one time in a classroom setting and ask questions, and we can get it all out the way in one whop. So that's how the intensive dispatch training course was born. And I've been fortunate to teach over 100 students, brother, how to make money in the trucking industry without a truck, many of which who have their own successful freight dispatching company going now, some that have made a transition to doing it full time for self by the grace of Allah. So it's definitely something that is an opportunity for those who are looking to make money in the trucking industry and to get involved in it with little to no startup capital. So that definitely is a great way to enter the trucking industry. That's the difference between the actual course. We go into the details of how to do so. We give you actual spreadsheets. We give you actual templates.
Yes, sir.
We give you actual live training on Zoom every Tuesday and Thursday night from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. For the whole month, not just for a week, not just for a day, but the entire month. as well as access to recorded videos for you to be able to study on your own time. We give homework assignments. We strive to hold you accountable and walk you through the whole process every step of the way. So that's how we do it with the intensive dispatch training course, Brother Anthony. But we also have added one-on-one coaching to the training session because some individuals have asked for more than just the course perspective. Some want to get that one-on-one nourishment, just focus on me, right? You know that song that's out that comes on the radio, can you focus on me?
Yes, sir.
Similar to that with the one-on-one coaching, right? They just want the full attention on them. They want to be able to ask questions to me and also my staff as well. And we also not just set you up with a dispatching service, but we also will allow you to shadow me live as I book loads, actual with drivers and on calls with brokers, as well as give you access to my load board, my DAT load board, where you can actually practice booking loads and so on and so forth. But outside of just that, you also get how to start your own trucking company, the type of equipment to purchase if you have the capital and you're interested in that, the type of engine you will need, because you have some engines that are garbage engines, some engines that are engines that you would prefer to have a long-lasting truck that you can put on the road, how to hire a driver, how to get the best insurance for your trucking company.
Yes.
I have a brother who specializes in that, that's added to the class, as well as my sister who teaches business credit establishment. Yes. Because that's another very important tool to add into your arsenal as a business owner, how to get funds without using your personal credit as a guarantee through business credit. So we have a sister that's going to walk you through the steps from A to Z on how to establish business credit, to get funds, to get capital, and you can invest those funds for whatever you desire to invest them in business-wise. So we also offer branding as well for those who are looking for logo establishment, flyers, social media flyers, business cards, and social media posts and things of that nature. We have a branding specialist. So all of that comes in the one-on-one coaching package as well.
Yes, sir. Man, we thank you for that, my brother. We actually got some beautiful questions from the comments section, dear brother, that I would like to pose to you at this time. I'm just now noticing. Question one is logistics companies like DB Shrinker, I believe, is moving toward AI autopilot trucking. Do you think this will have a big change in the industry for drivers? Just the new for a new industry for drivers and dispatchers.
Absolutely. Just with every industry, right? When technology advances, one thing about us as students of the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and for anybody who's forward thinking, you always want to stay in the process of being a lifelong learner, right? You never want to take one course or buy one ebook and think that you're going to be set for life by learning a strategy, because knowledge is always advancing. So now that the trucking industry in the future, right, not tomorrow or in a week or anything of that nature, but in the future will more than likely go through maybe automated driving. Now we just need to learn how we can position ourselves to invest in that equipment, how we can invest in or learn how that would need to be regulated from a dispatcher's perspective. But currently that's not affecting the market, but you just simply need to become a lifelong learner and position yourself in investing in that technology, investing in that equipment. And one thing about an actual truck that you need to put a driver in, it's called a depreciating asset, because once you purchase that truck, of course, the value starts going down the older the truck gets. However, it's about maximizing your profit with the truck. If you bought the truck for $20,000 and you run it for a year, right, you can literally gross $300,000 in the truck for that year. So that $20,000 was nothing, right, to that $300,000 that you grossed with that particular truck. And that's before you pay a driver, that's before you pay fuel and so on and so forth. But the concept is to maximize your profit with the physical truck. And as the market begins to transition to that, how you can invest in the transportation industry with a new technology, with new ways to still be relevant and not just stay with the old system that's in place currently. So you definitely want to stay a lifetime learner. That's how I would answer that question.
Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. And the person who actually posed that was our brother Henry Collins that I mentioned before this. And he also has a second question, which is a beautiful question. Are you looking to create a network of more dispatchers within your company?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great question, Brother Henry, and thank you, brother. Yes, that is the goal, sir, to always scale, because one thing about the dispatching industry or dispatching in the trucking industry is what's called the self-employed quadrant, right? For those who are familiar with the different quadrants in business, you have the employment quadrant, which when you're working a job for a company, then you have the self-employed quadrant, which is when you're working for yourself. When you're in the self-employed quadrant, you're working for yourself. It can be fulfilling, but it also can be, time consuming because you are the business.
That's
And as
right.
a dispatcher, it's important to know that when you start off, more than likely, you're going to be in the self-employed quadrant. So, you have to be willing to put in the work to scale to get to a point where you can gain enough clients to now start looking for help to start dispatching some of that load for you, while you can free yourself up to do other things as well, such as purchase the equipment, manage the drivers, to manage what your dispatchers are doing and pay your dispatchers a percentage of those loads that are being booked. So yes, I personally am in the process of doing that. But you definitely can scale. But when you start off, you want to put in the work to get to that position to
Come
be
on.
able to scale.
That's right. That's right. Beautiful answer, dear brother. We got two
Praise be to
more to help us finish up. I love this question here. Do you find loads for box trucks, sprinters, and smaller loads to fit in SUVs?
Great question. So the answer to that is yes and no. I do work with box trucks. I do not work with sprinters and SUVs. However, I would suggest to those who have a sprinter van or an SUV, or you start with your personal car, to focus on freight that's in your local area. I would look up last mile delivery. Google last mile deliveries in in your respective city, and see what services are needed for last mile delivery, and see if you can help with expedited freight. You have places like AutoZone, you have places like different car part stores who need different things moved quickly, right? When
Yes,
car
sir.
parts get purchased, and they may need a sprinter van, they may need a car, some type of transportation service that can move that smaller freight from one location to another location very quickly. And I would focus on striving to get a contract with them, right? And build your capital up, lock that contract in, put in the work. And if you want to get to the point where you can get a box truck or you can get a semi, once you start building your capital up, then scale your company that way. But I myself don't book loads for sprinters and personal vehicles, because the freight that's available for them on load boards is very minimal. So I always recommend those who come to me with that equipment type to just put in the work of researching your area, finding out what freight needs to be moved for those services with last mile deliveries, and seeing what you can come up with by reaching out to those particular companies that need that service done. But box trucks, absolutely. I dispatch for box trucks, and that's how I actually started dispatching only box trucks.
Okay.
So yes, I absolutely do dispatch for box trucks.
Yes, sir. Beautiful breakdown, dear brother. And to end this off, I'm gonna uh ask you a question. So our brother Henry Collins, right? Like I said, he is the head of the trade and commerce down here, and he poses a question to you, my brother, and it asks: we have a business exchange Zoom meeting every Tuesday. Can we invite you to teach the 7th region audience on how to become an independent dispatcher? And he says, thank you.
All praises due to Allah. Absolutely, would be honored, brother. Just let me know the time, because I do teach my dispatch training course on Tuesdays.
Okay.
I would just need to know the time that is being done, and
Yes, sir.
inshallah, I would strive to move whatever class I have on that day to another time, or I try my best to accommodate whatever time you have available for your class. It would be an honor to be able to share whatever I can to help anybody who's listening in the 7th region to learn whatever they need to know about the trucking industry or becoming a successful dispatcher. So I'm honored by the invite, and I would love to be a part of whatever call you have dealing with trucking or dispatching, brother.
Man, that is awesome, brother. We appreciate you for being so willing. And we appreciate everybody that stuck in through this interview topic on how to become successful as a dispatcher. I know a lot of us didn't know that this was a lane that you could become successful in. But if you did learn something beneficial and you got good knowledge out of it, let's go ahead and hit that like and share button, because I know the youth that are looking for an independent way out of being attached to our open oppressors, that we need to give them an outlet. So all you have to do to support that is hit the share button twice, and it will post to your page. And we want I want my brother to explain how you can get involved with him, your social media, website, contact, all that, dear brother. Whatever you would like the people to know on how to get involved with you and what you can give to them, please let it be known, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Anthony. Well, you all, if you're interested in learning more about what it is to be a successful freight dispatcher, to start a company in the trucking industry without owning a truck, you can just simply reach out to me at torchlightdispatch.com. You can reach out to me via email by going to contact if you have any further questions, or if you're interested in our next course, the intensive dispatch training course that we have, where we'll be teaching you how to make money in the trucking industry without a truck. It starts on May 3rd. So you can sign up today at torchlightdispatch.com. And if you just want to follow my pages for more content, I post content on my Facebook and my Instagram page. My Instagram page is at DX_Torchlight, at DX_Torchlight, excuse me. And also my TikTok is at DX_Torchlight. And my Facebook page is at Torchlight Logistics. So you can reach out to me on any of those social media platforms, or you can go directly to the website. And also you can go on those social media platforms and click the link in the bio. It has all of my products, has all of my courses, has all of my information on how you can reach out to me. So feel free to do that anytime.
Yes, sir. Man, we appreciate you coming on here and giving us just another piece of what we can do to separate and become independent, and not just that, become successful in our independency, dear brother. So I want to thank you personally for accepting the call to come and teach the people in the 7th region about what you have acquired of knowledge through your career. And, if anything else comes up to where I know that I could use your knowledge to tie in to make sense of what it means to establish a nation, brother, I will not hesitate to reach out, sir.
All praises to Allah, Brother Anthony. It has been an honor to be with you, to be invited. It was a pleasure to be on your show, brother. I look forward to seeing more what you produce from this show, dealing with the 7th region and our nation. And for all those who are listening, brother, you have a great platform for the youth. And for all those who are listening, continue to do what you do, brother, because it is truly a great service you're providing to our nation, brother. All praise is due to Allah, brother. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, dear brother. All praise is due to Allah. And so for the people still here, what I would like for you to do, like I said, please hit that like button and that share. And if you could, please, right? This is not something that we get paid to do, and Facebook is a platform that is not bringing in anything just yet. So if you can help your brother out, whatever you have on your heart to give toward a Cash App donation, it is Brain Food TV, $ Brain Food TV. As we know, the enemy does not feed our pockets or put food on our table. I appreciate whatever is on your heart to give, if you do have it to give. And we really hope to see you here soon. We will not let up on the gas pedal. We will continue to give you knowledge and information that will support building a nation. So I thank you all for joining me today. This is your host, Brother Anthony Muhammad. See you soon. Peace and blessings, family.